Welcome to the Navigating Dental Insurance Podcast, where we don't take from insurance companies. Here are your hosts, Mr. Jordan Comstock and Mr. Ben Tuine.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the Navigating Dental Insurance Podcast. This is Ben Tuine, your solo host for today. Jordan, of course, again, is absent, more so excused from today's episode. Many of you know that Jordan is my neighbor. There's a path right behind my house, a bike trail, running trail. And Jordan stopped by my house a couple of days ago, and he introduced me to his daughters as the uncle. So I'm his uncle. I'm Uncle Ben to his kids, which is really neat because I have in the range of 75-ish nephews and nieces. So Jordan, don't take this personally, but I don't know my nephews and nieces' names, all of them. I just call them, hey K, hey Tao, hey T. They all have the same name depending on what day it is. So for your daughters, Jordan, I might make up some names, something easy for me to remember. So many of you know that Jordan and I are now neighbors, which is fun. That was not planned, but when fate happens, I guess, as they say, the universal lines, things happen. Well, today we have, this episode is a long time coming. We've canceled, we've rescheduled, we've had internet outages, we've had tornadoes, which is totally true. I drove through a tornado in Georgia, southern Georgia, about 3 weeks ago, survived that, and I had a softball size hail smash our rental car's windshield. My wife and son were crying, and we're like, oh, this is the end of life as it is. But we've had those kinds of crazy issues that has caused this episode to be postponed. So this is going to be an epic episode. Everybody buckle up and get ready. This is going to be exciting. Many of you probably already know Bob Spiel. He's the author of Flip Your Focus. It's one of those really great leadership books about upside down leadership, right? How to realign your focus in a way for you to be a more effective leader. And I've read his book a couple of times. Bob, welcome back to the program.
Hey, thanks, Ben. Awesome to be here.
Yeah, it's great. Now I'm going to get to you here in just a second, Brian. But Bob, Flip Your Focus. Can you tell our listeners how they can get a hold of that book and why it's important for them to at least consider it as a business owner, why they need to learn some of your style of leadership?
Oh, thanks. Yeah, they can find it on Amazon. You can just go to Amazon and type in Flip Your Focus, Igniting People, Profits, and Performance Through Upside Down Leadership. And, it's $20. It's a great read. Why they should care about it, frankly, is that you can't run faster than your leader. Yeah. And so if a practice is going to raise the bar, the secret to the whole thing is the dentist raises the bar first. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And once they get that mindset, it's really exciting to see what happens.
Yeah, I love that. I've learned in my career as a business owner is that you can't grow beyond your scope of understanding, your training, right?
No, you can't. That's right.
Oftentimes we become our own bottlenecks. And it's a function of training and understanding, and most of the times it's a function of leadership, right? How you lead your group of people to take you to that next level.
Yeah, exactly. And the cool thing is, Ben, it's not as hard as it seems.
Yeah.
Okay, really. You can strip the mystery away from this thing, and I talk about one mindset and 3 skill sets, and if you can just adopt the mindset and then practice the skill sets, suddenly magic starts to happen in your practice. And the most awesome thing is that the dentist actually starts to feel less stress and more enjoyment because the team now is in alignment with where the dentist wants to go. It's such the coolest thing.
I've implemented that June of last year. I was so frustrated just because I couldn't spend enough time on the leadership for the group, training people. The people knew my philosophy. So I interviewed in-house to promote somebody to be my operating officer. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, Miles on my team has been with me since the beginning of Veritas, which Veritas started in 2014. She was the best one to interview for this particular position, to delegate the whole leadership realm in an effort to have others sharing the responsibilities. and empowering her and trusting her. Of course, she's had multiple pay raises since then, because I've never seen the amount of growth in our business over the last, 10 months, 11 months. It's never happened in our history. And it is all about that. It's about that flipping your focus as a leader. A lot of the concepts that you mentioned in your book that I ripped off and stole and implemented. I thank you for that. All I paid you was that $20 for that book, and it was totally worth it.
And a couple of lunches, right?
Yeah, totally. So I feel grateful, Bob, because a lot of your leadership stuff that you mentioned in the book has actually had a personal impact on me. So if you're listening and you need a good read, Flip Your Focus on Amazon. It's probably one of the top leadership books I've read in the last.
Awesome. It's also on Audible. So if people don't want to read, they can listen to it and pick up a lot there too.
That's awesome.
It's also a pretty quick read too. So for those super busy dentists out there, it's pretty quick.
Yeah.
Very easy.
And it's easy read. It's one of those things where you book tab and you'll go back to on the weekend to read again, because when you implement some of the things that Bob mentioned, I call it sort of a chapter in the Bible of leadership, right? Or at least a book in the Bible of leadership, because it's one of those essential. This is how I want to be a leader, is a lot of what Bob mentioned in his book.
Thanks, Ben. That means a lot.
Brighton. Oh, it's my pleasure. Now, Brighton. So Brighton, over the last 5 years, quite impressive history. He's built 2 companies and has taken them sort of from that startup level, from 0 to 7 figures. And just curious, Brighton, so how, in terms of your history, that's actually very impressive to do that in 5 years. It took me over 10 years to do that with one business, actually 2 different businesses. Tell us a little bit about your dental history, how you got involved in dentistry, and maybe even a little bit about the 2 companies that you've developed.
Yeah, so both the previous companies I worked with were sales and marketing companies. So they were pretty rapid growth companies. I did a lot of operations, some sales here and there. I was #1 employee in both companies, but I wasn't the owner. So even though I facilitated it and created a lot of the growth, I didn't have that ownership stake that I really, really wanted. So Bob and I have known each other for the last 5 years. He's been a great mentor to me. And we just started talking about, I've always picked his brain. Bob's more than willing to always share his opinion and his mentorship. And so we just started picking each other's brains, and we realized that we had a lot in common. And Bob's been in the industry for the last 15 years plus. And we realized that we wanted to work together and find an avenue to do that. So over the last year or so, we've been working on a few projects together. And that's when I just started to fall in love with dentistry. Bob talks about it all the time, but I believe it's the greatest small business in America. It really is. The amount of lives you can impact in such a small team and how efficient you can make it. It's just so unique and so fun. So I've really enjoyed diving into dentistry because it really is just a fantastic industry to be a part of.
It's a great career. I was sort of shocked a few years ago when we brought on a guest that came and talked about the stresses of dentistry. And I think the title of that episode was something along the lines of why have I lost my passion for dentistry, right? Mm-hmm. And to me, it was probably one of the it was actually it was a dark and depressing episode in my mind as we were recording it. And I thought in my mind, this is probably not going to be a very popular episode, but we'll post it anyway. And we did. And for that year, it was the #1 most listened to episode. And that woke me up to the reality that from the dentist perspective, dentistry is a hard career.
It is.
It's a tough, full contact sport.
Yeah,
we call it. It is. It's all in.
8 to 10 days, 10 hours a day, 4 to 5 days a week. And that was the first time I started to realize that from the doctor's side, it's a lot more stressful than what I realized. And naturally, as you engage in a profession that's high demand, you tend to lose the passion for dentistry. So I'm glad what you mentioned, Brighton, that dentistry is a great career. I think it's a great career. I have those ups and downs, maybe on a quarterly basis. You have those emotions kind of swinging back and forth. But overall, I think dentistry is probably one of the better professions out there. So if you're feeling any stress and hate for the industry, talk to someone. Dentistry can be very, very enjoyable over time, especially as what we're going to talk about today in terms of this whole concept of partnerships, right? Associateships and all that. The title of this episode, as you can see here, is something along the lines of ending the dental divorce cycle. And I think this is really cool and unique because I'm assuming we're talking about this from the perspective of doctor relationships, partnerships, and associateships. Is that right, guys?
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're not going to be marital therapists today. We're going to be talking more so about tips and techniques on how to end that vicious cycle of turn and burn as it pertains to bringing other doctors into your practice to work with, right? So let's talk about this. This whole title, what made you guys think of this title in terms of it being called Ending the Dental Divorce Cycle?
It's real simple, Ben, because, well, twofold. Number one, when two dentists part ways, it feels like a divorce.
Yeah.
It feels like a divorce to the team. It can cost upward of $100,000 in terms of opportunity cost and real cost to have that happen. But in the end, everybody just feels this negative energy of, we failed, But the other part to this is that, and just to give you some background, like Brighton mentioned, I've been in the industry 15 years. I actually consulted in medicine after being a hospital and surgical center CEO. And just happened through, I think, one of those things in the universe lined everything up, like you and Jordan being neighbors. I was able to get into dentistry through working with another dental consultant, and he opened my eyes to this whole really, really cool industry. Okay. And talking to a friend who had been a long-term dental consultant, she mentioned me one time in a phone call, well, Bob, our failure rate with placing associates is 75% within a year.
Wow.
And honest to goodness, I mean, I hate to say it, this is my fifth industry, okay? I'd never seen that type of bloodbath when it comes to hiring people at the executive level, all right? You don't even see that in medicine. And it was like, what the heck? Why would that be the case? Until thinking through and talking to other people who've been at it, the realization came, well, dentists live in such a unique environment. As you mentioned, it's high stress, but they also live in each other's sandbox. Okay. And because of that, there's nothing else on earth quite like a real marriage except a dental marriage.
Yeah, that's interesting. When I think about, my real marriage, you take time to get to know the person, right? You're both, it's sort of like an ongoing working interview,
Yeah.
Are you going to be up to the task? Are you going to be able to deal with my quirks, my weaknesses and all that? And when you look at it from a business perspective, where of course it's a different dynamic, but very close to an actual marriage, right? Where you probably spend more time with your business partners than you do with your own spouses.
Just about.
Yeah.
And that need for values to be aligned, for how they view money to be aligned, for the ability to trust each other's dentistry, to be there matters. And that's why they fall apart, is because the groundwork wasn't laid to begin with. As you mentioned, it was an ongoing working interview. Right. I've been married 40 years and the working interview is still going on. So if you've got a secret, man, let me know. Okay. But there's so much that has to happen up front. And sadly, as an industry, we've always viewed it through the lens of this is just a business relationship.
Yes. Yeah, you actually kind of segued into one of the first areas that I wanted to talk about. Was how do we get into this mess, right? And to kind of season that question a little bit from a personal perspective, I've had 3 different failed partnerships in the same business, and I'm the last man standing, fortunately. but
Yeah.
you partner with best friends, and those
Mhm.
friendships, they die once you go through this whole divorce system. And you mentioned that the groundwork wasn't laid correctly from the beginning. What are some of the things that you need to think about as you consider, a potential partnership or a potential associateship, where you're hiring somebody at the executive level? Where do you need to start
Mhm.
as a practice owner?
Mhm.
I think lots of times we just think they need to have a license and a pulse. And if they check those two boxes and then we like get along and we're kind of friends, maybe we like to golf or whatever it is, that, oh, we're similar enough that we can make this work.
Hmm.
The reality is, and especially dentistry, I think most business partnerships, you could probably apply the same principles to, but dentists in specific work so hand in hand together that if you're not aligned in a lot of other things other than the fact that you might just both like to play golf and you have fun with each other, whatever,
Hmm.
those little undiscovered or maybe undiscussed values and expectations start to boil up and they go from molehills into mountains, right? So some of the few things that we have really narrowed in on that are success, I mean, that lead to a successful partnership. Number one is being aligned in how you view money.
Hmm.
Um, People view money in all sorts of different ways. There's not good or bad. It's just how do you view it? Do you view it as a tool? Do you not mind using debt to further along your business? Do you not like debt? Do you like to be flashy, have nice cars, whatever it is? Those values around however you view money, it's really important to be similar.
So
Okay, so
similar in the sense of, one doctor is high risk tolerance, right? They don't mind taking risks when
Mhm.
it comes to investments. And then another
Mhm.
doctor is low risk tolerance, right? They're just going to put money in savings, not very high risk mutual funds, things like that. So you're saying that they have to be aligned, that the one that is, if they're both low risk in terms of money management, they'd align better for a long-term partnership, or at least a working relationship.
yeah, it definitely I don't know if you have to get in so minute of your investment strategies, but definitely of your perspective and how you view it and your relationship with
Just the
money.
basics of how you view
Um,
money
And
then.
yeah, and how you
yeah,
spend it within the practice itself. It
Gotcha.
really has to do with reward systems.
Hmm.
And there are those that view money as the reason that I got into dentistry. I had a neighbor who, man, he had the nicest house. He was able to take vacations with his family, looked great. So now I want the gravy.
Hmm.
Okay. And that sort of person was someone whose mom washed their baggies out and they had no money at all and they drove a Honda Civic for 20 years.
Hmm.
Those two people are not going to get along
Gotcha.
ultimately, because when it comes down to it, they're just going to start to split apart because they can't see the vision in terms of where they want the practice to go and why they're doing what they're doing. Okay.
Interesting. Yeah.
Simon Sinek brought up this phrase, which we think is really, really profound, but begin with why.
Hmm.
And money really becomes a fundamental why.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I was watching this episode one. Gosh, it was just a short clip the other day about somebody asked an audience member why they drive a BMW, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the person that answered it says, "Well, because it looks nice." And so the
mhm.
speaker's like, So you're telling me that you're spending $1,700 a month to drive a car to look good to people that drive,
That you don't
that you live in?
know.
Yeah,
Yeah, to
you're
Yeah.
impress people you don't know.
yeah. So under that example, I mean, I could see that as when you have a different philosophy, where the more conservative doctor that spends money on the essentials, not the flashy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that even in neighborhood relationships. You have this whole idea of keeping up with the Joneses, and
Yep.
then
Mm-hmm.
and then the one family on the corner, they don't care. They're like, we'll focus on taking care of our families, but we have different philosophies on how we handle our money. So you see those dynamics in day-to-day life, right? Where the ones that are keeping up with the
Yep.
Joneses, they're friends because they're competing against each other, and the ones that are
Correct.
living conservatively tend to always all be friends too, because they're aligned with their personal values, right? They
Mm-hmm.
probably
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
relate better when they just have basic conversations
Yeah.
with each other, right? just like
Yeah,
just
for
like
sure.
dating or marriage.
And I mean, yeah, and
What-
going back to the marriage idea, yeah, you and your wife or you and your spouse or whoever, you and your partner need to be, it definitely helps if you're aligned on how you view money. What's one of the number one reasons for divorce out there is because of financial stress and how you view money, right? So we apply the same type of principle when you're looking to form a new, what we call dental marriage with a new associate or partnership.
I like that. So that's number one. This kind of reminds me of, in my single days, gosh, a long time ago, eHarmony's 7 points of compatibility, right?
Yeah.
And this is sort of a version, more of a professional version of the matchmaker concept, right? What's number two on
Exactly.
that list?
What we find number two, Ben, is, and it's funny that you bring up eHarmony, because what Brighton and I are putting together is a company called DentistHiringPros. And our whole purpose is to try to align practices who need associates with the ideal associate. Okay, not just a pulse, not just a license, but somebody who really fits the culture and fits the doctor and fits the team. You know, you talked about the 3 divorces that you've been through, and I got in business with a friend and, you know, it didn't turn out. It reminds me, last year I was talking to someone who is an active client right now. And he had this one friend of his from dental school who came in and would do, you know, 1 or 2 days here or there. And I started asking me, saying, you know, I really think I could partner with this guy. And I'm saying, well, tell me more about him. And the owner doctor is a little more serious, a lot more hands-on, super fast with technology. His practice is doing amazing. But this other guy would come in and he'd be a jokester. He wasn't on time. He'd spend maybe too much time talking to the staff, and he was just kind of a class clown. Okay. And the more he told me about him, I started thinking, you know, I just don't know. I know Felix and Oscar got along, but that was a contrived situation.
Yeah.
Okay. So I said, well, listen, you know, doctor, let's do this. Let's run a disc survey on you and a disc survey on him. And Ben, I don't know if you've heard of that. It's pretty common in dentistry, but it's just a quick personality profile. Okay. Right. To really kind of get under the hood and see what makes this one person tick, what makes this other person tick in terms of communication style, making decisions, risk tolerance, conflict, etc. Well, lo and behold, you know, the owner doctor, man, he's a very conscientious, perfectionist doctor. And this other person that he was thinking of bringing on board was this enormous influencer, okay, who could sell anything to anybody. But when you understand this methodology, you understand that, you know, that type of personality also doesn't listen very well, doesn't pay attention necessarily, can't really stay on time. And the reality came down to, listen, you know, you guys can be friends, but if you decide to get married, man, it's going to end up in a really bad train wreck pretty soon, because he's just not going to fit. Well, guess who had the job then to tell his buddy, you're not a fit? It was me, brother.
Oh, man. It's not always easy, right, Bob? Like
it's not, no.
It's almost like you're firing somebody, and
in some ways, but it was the right thing to do.
Right.
And I think his buddy took it well. I know the hiring dentist took it really well. And then we found somebody using our criteria, doing our homework, understanding, you know, personality styles, how they view money, type of dentistry they like to do. And we found the perfect guy. And he's been with this doctor now for month 7. And he just cleared 100,000 in production this month.
Oh, wow. So
okay.
I guess.
So when you find the right person, the cool thing is it's magic.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. It kind of makes the whole, what is that saying? Opposites attract. So this is like, so you're saying that's not always true.
That's not always true. Not in a business partnership. Yeah. No, you can have complementary characteristics, but there are times that they just automatically conflict.
So what
especially when you've got a senior doctor that's already created a culture.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's even more so that I don't know if they're necessarily opposites, or it's hard to, you don't want to put people in pigeonholes or boxes or anything like that, but some relationships definitely take more effort, and more energy. And so if you can maybe set yourself up to success, set yourself up from success from the very beginning, make sure you kind of are aligned in as many things as possible, it prevents less likely to fail in the future. So that's why it's really important that you do understand how you communicate and how someone you might partner with communicates, because those are really easy ways to start to cause problems down the line.
So this is sort of like, when you're looking for candidates to come and work with you, you're doing a lot more than just a working interview, right? I'm assuming you're running this DISC assessment, personality assessment, a questionnaire, multiple interviews, right? And at the end of the day, I'm putting myself in the shoes of that doctor where you said, look, you guys are just not a fit. In his world, probably a little bit crushed, right? But I'm sure you painted it from the perspective of, look, you're going to find something where when there's a better fit, the magic happens. But when you really try to push two people together that are incompatible, there's always going to be things like conflict, right? Or a lot of conflict that could interfere with your personal potential growth, right? So I think for myself as an individual, like if I'm attending a working interview and I'm being told no, that's not necessarily saying that you suck, right? It's like, well, you're probably better fit with somebody else. Let's go help you find somebody else, right?
Absolutely. You always want to be thinking win-win, and that's how we approach it at Dentist Hiring Pros. We want to find a win for the associate. We want them to be happy, or the new partner. We want them to be happy, them to be excited, them to be content. And if they don't match up with these similar values, they're not going to be happy either. If you take someone that loves living in Manhattan, New York, is a super city folk, and then you go and put them into the middle of nowhere, Virginia or South Dakota or something like that, they're just not going to be happy. So you do want to set both people up for success. And so you got to think win-win.
That's awesome. I want to
So Ben, just to throw one more piece of information out there. I mean, we formalize it to the extent where at Dentist Hiring Pros, we actually create what we call an avatar. Okay. And so we know what that ideal candidate's going to look like.
So before you even bring somebody in, you have
yes, that's exactly right. Yep. We know those characteristics.
I like that.
And then that's what we survey to. That's what we interview to. That's what we check references on. All of that. That's the benchmark.
Yeah, so we are never. Sorry, Bob, to interrupt you there.
Go ahead.
We are never comparing candidates A to candidate B. We're always comparing candidate A, candidate B, candidate C to our ideal candidate.
Gotcha.
We're not trying to pick what's the best of the litter. We're trying who's the best for our practice.
Yeah, this reminds me on how the big corporations hire executives. It was more than 15 years ago when I went through something like this, and they said based upon your skill set, you kind of fit that mold of what they're looking for. So you're in a short list of candidates for this position, and it was very, very similar to what I'm hearing here. Why? So in terms of creating that avatar, and then you go out and you find the associates, what about this whole concept of there's been a shortage of potential associateship candidates, or even hygienist candidates, right? So I'm assuming what you're talking about here probably applies to more than just hiring a doctor, right? You can apply these same concepts for any position in the dental practice. But how do you deal with the issue of workforce shortages, or are there workforce shortages these days?
It's a good, fair question.
Yeah, there are workforce shortages all over the place because COVID had 10% of the hygienists step out, and only half of them have come back, and others have decided they were going to sit on the sidelines while more COVID money was kind of spread throughout the whole country. And it has impacted the entire industry. Now, at Dentist Hiring Pros, we're zeroing in specifically on that associate relationship because we think that's the foundation of an entire practice.
Yeah.
But we have found that, kind of circling back, Ben, to the whole idea of flip your focus. Okay. That practices that are well led and have a very healthy culture and also pay, not at the top of the market, but pay fairly within the market, they rarely have a problem trying to bring people on board.
Yeah.
They become magnets, okay? And their team members are looking for that type of environment to be in because they know what it's like to when they don't have it.
You know, that that brings to mind when I shifted how we did things last June, we sort of became known among candidates because we started hiring, and we had, for a single position, we had over 200 applicants. And it's crazy in most dental practices where they put out an advertisement, they'd be lucky to get a response in a week or two, right?
Right.
And I'm living in this world where I kind of feel like the pandemic issues with workforce shortages didn't apply to me. For some reason, what we do is different. But as I looked at it, the bonus system that we put in place, the compensation package, the testimonials from our current employees and what they were saying about what we do to their own friends, that they were saying, hey, you got to apply here. We had a long line of people that we had to turn away.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it was because of that whole leadership dynamic change, right? Where now people in the business, your own employees felt invested, right? Where they wanted to be surrounded by people that they thought would be the ideal candidates for our business. So I can see that, where there are some practices that would put out advertisements, and then they would fly in people from Alaska, doctors from Alaska, to come out clear to New York. You know, these doctors in Alaska that are interested in these positions, right? So I guess it in terms of the, you know, tying in your book, Flip Your Focus, at least the leadership dynamic, compared to what you guys do with Dentist Hiring Pros on building that avatar, eliminating this whole idea behind the dental divorce cycle. It's far beyond that, in my opinion. I mean, this is a system to run an efficient business all around, right?
It is, and a thriving partnership.
Yeah.
In the end, because that's really our goal, is to create thriving practices and thriving partnerships that love what they do.
Yeah.
I love it. And it's very, very possible to make that a reality.
In dentistry, I've never heard of anybody else doing this. So I think you guys are going to be successful in this because it's needed, right? Every practice owner that has hired an associate can relate. They've had divorces a few times, right? Or multiple times. In fact, we do credentialing for doctors, and less than 6 months into the credentialing process, doctor's gone.
They're gone. Yeah. What happened to them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every single day. Well, I love this, guys. So for doctors that are listening to this, that are saying, this is for me, I need this, where can they go to either contact you or learn more?
Yeah, the best place is just to go to our website, DentistHiringPros.com. On that website, there's a form you can fill out or schedule an appointment. You can talk directly with myself or Bob. We'd love to have a conversation to see if you're ready to bring on an associate. One of the really important parts of our process is actually vetting the practice to see if they're ready. Lots of times doctors think, oh, I'm too busy. I have too much going on. I need an associate. I need this. And what happens when we kind of peel back the, get under the hood and start looking at what's actually happening in the practice, lots of times they're not prepared, and we have to turn people away, and they need to go back, start reading Flip Your Focus, and transitioning their practice into doing more with what they currently have. But that's the best place, DentistHiringPros.com, and you can contact us there directly. One thing, and if we can, Ben, I don't want to end this real quick. There's one third piece that causes dental divorces that I think is really important that we touch on really fast. And that is not having, and it sounds super simple, but not having clear expectations for the future when you form a new partnership. I cannot tell you how many conversations we have with dentists that lost an associate recently, or they've gone through 5 or 10 or whatever it is. And we find out that there was never a conversation about what's the future for this associate. Is there a partnership track here? Is there a carrot out there that I can work for? That we have found that one of the most important parts of creating a thriving and lasting associateship is to make sure that there is a sort of ownership partnership track on the cards at some point in the future. We're not saying that you hire an associate and in a year they get to buy 50% of your practice. Maybe in some circumstances that's okay, but for most of the time, we would not encourage that. We would say, look to 3 to 5 year window and make sure it's a conversation that is established from the beginning, that we are going to have that in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 7 years, whatever it is, whatever you're comfortable with, we will have a conversation about how do we become partners in ownership in the business. Because that carrot, even though it may seem simple, is what can really help people work towards the same goals and help them stick around when things might get a little tough. And then kind of a sub part of that is it's very helpful if you form a new partnership to what we to have what we call marriage counseling. So part of our process is after we've brought on, we've gone through the matchmaker phase, we're then through the priest phase of forming the new partnership in marriage. We then stay engaged as marriage counselors, as third-party consultants, if you will, to help overcome some of those little problems that are going to come up as we form new relationships. You're going to have to fight through. I mean, I don't know how many people you know, but the first year of marriage is always the hardest, right? And so it's because so many new things you have to work through, and having that marriage counselor is super helpful to be able to work through some of those problems. So I thought we would do a disservice if we didn't cover some of those things really fast. So I'm sorry to extend this a little longer.
Thank you.
And Ben, just so you know, that process has allowed us, remember I said at the beginning, 75% failure rate. The coolest thing is that process has allowed us over the past 10 years to have a 90% success rate.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah.
Big difference.
90% success rate. Yeah. And it's because of the magic of being really clear up front, being really clear through the process, being really clear, as Brighton brought up, for the expectations and the outcome, and then having someone who can help kind of work through some of the issues that just always pop up in the beginning, and yet be disinterested and help both parties not get at each other, but learn from each other. And that's the reward to us, is when we see that type of success happen, like the associate that I told you with this one guy, he did 100,000 this month. And it's like, the coolest thing is that he did it in alignment with the owner doctor, in alignment with the team. They all love this guy. And it's just, once again, magic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes a world of difference.
Makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah. I can attest to that on a personal level.
Having
the right relationships in business is so important. Gosh, you guys should start dentistonly.com, kind of like farmersonly.com. But in this case, matchmake dentists to each other for real marriages.
That's hilarious.
No, but this is so important because like you mentioned, it's essentially a marriage, right?
It is. And it's the foundation. And as goes the partnership, so goes the practice.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think it's been accepted in the industry for so long that, it's just kind of is how it is, but the reality is, if you actually think about the cost, the hard cost and the opportunity cost of every single one of those divorces, you're losing hundreds of thousands of dollars for every time between hard cash and opportunity costs. And so it's a cost and it's an expense and it's a stress and an overwhelm and all those things that you don't have to experience.
Yep.
We're telling you there is hope. There is a model that works. And we'd love the opportunity to be able to help more people solve that pain in their lives.
No, I love this. It's so fun to see dentistry improving. My 15 years in dentistry, I've seen so many different improvements to the industry in a way that helps practice owners remove a lot of the stress of running a business and treating patients. And to me, in a day and age where the associateship model is on the rise, right? There's a lot of practices that do need associateships. 75% failure rate, having a system to cut that down to a potential 10% failure rate or a 90% success rate is phenomenal. So congratulations, guys, on building
Thank you.
this. Let's
Thank you.
get this out. Let's let people know, because I think what you have is it'll save these marriages. It'll save these types of relationships for the better. Gentlemen, so we've just about hit the end of our time block here for this episode. So we're going to post this in the show notes for those of you that might be driving or otherwise occupied with other things. DentistHiringPros.com, as well as we'll put a link in the show notes on where to find Bob's book on Flip Your Focus. And I believe it's actually written. Do you have Robert or is it Bob on the book? I can't remember.
It's Bob. It's Bob.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you see Bob's book, or he also goes by Robert Spiel, but Bob Spiel is what you'll find on the Flip Your Focus book. Gentlemen, any closing thoughts for this episode today?
Just one last thing for me, Ben, is the other thing that we love to help people do is if you are in a struggling dental relationship, if you will, we also love helping current partnerships see success. So we also love to dive in, meet with you, find ways to realign and get back on track so that you can continue to build for the future. And you can reach us at the same place, Dentist Hiring Pros, for that. But it's something that we're passionate about, is creating thriving associateships, partnerships, and teams in and out of the dental industry. So, yeah,
that's awesome. That's
yeah,
awesome.
Great. And Ben, I'll just say that, it's awesome to be online with you right now. The longer that I'm in the industry, the more I kind of have viewed that dentistry really has two Achilles heels. And one is insurance. And that's something that you are very passionate about, helping practices, learn how to navigate. But the other is the inability to replicate dentists. Okay. And both of those have hampered, in particular, private practice dentistry from really continue to leverage itself. All right. And I'm excited just to be able to share, Bright and I are excited to share that there is hope, that there are answers, that we don't have to just accept this number. Like one dentist we were talking to and shared that number with, and he just kind of reflectively sat back and said, is there anything we can do about that? It's like, well, heck yes, there is. I mean, that's why we're here. We really can do something about it. You just have to change your thinking about it. Okay.
Yeah. And the other thing too is, if you're an associate and you're working at a practice, you're not happy, or you're in a DSO or whatever it is, and you want to get back into private practice, we also have a form on our website that you can go fill out and book an appointment and see what opportunities we have that we're currently hiring for. So both sides, there's if you're an associate or a practice, we love to form that marriage with you. So
that's perfect. Gentlemen, thank you so much. This is probably one of the more important episodes that we've done in a while, as it pertains to sort of a new and revolutionary way to address an issue that has been a major problem in dentistry forever, right? So thank you, gentlemen. Again, those of you that are listening to this, check out the show notes for more information for Bob and Brighton's contact information. But Bob and Brighton, thank you so much for being on the program today. Of course, we're going to look forward to another follow-up to see how things are going with you guys in the near future, but appreciate you both. Thank you
Ben,
so much.
it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. And to our listeners, be happy, be healthy, and we wish you the best of success.